Here we go. Here we go.
They can't see my sweatpants, can they?
Business on the top, cash on the bottom.
I was gonna say business on the top, party at the bottom.
Well, hello, you guys. Welcome back to our channel.
That was really well timed. Why am I getting so impressed with you lately, like with the YouTube stuff? Anyways, welcome back to our channel. We hope you're doing well. We hope this video finds you well.
Yes, this is part 2 of our Let's Talk About Money series because, as you know, we like to talk about awkward things on the internet. So Here we are.
So in this video, we're actually getting a lot more personal with some of our stories. We're going to be sharing some of the way our upbringing impacted the way we view money, some of the struggles that we've gone through with money. And also at the end, we're going to be debunking like 3 or 4 hardcore money lies that are so important. But if you haven't seen episode 1, which is a really kind of specific Q&A that you, the subscribers, have asked, feel free to go check that out. Somewhere up there.
And just a little disclaimer, what we're going to be talking about applies to anyone, but we're going to personally be sharing from a Christian background. So it's principles that anyone can take and use, but it's based on biblical truths and what we can learn from the Bible in regards to how we manage our money and how we view money. And so that's a little disclaimer. But before we jump into it, I do want to give just a quick little thank you shout out to our 200 patrons. It has literally, when you see this video, it will have been a week since we launched our Patreon, and we're just blown away by your support and generosity and really investing back into what we're trying to do here. And so just a quick little shout out. If you're a Patreon, we appreciate you. We love you. All right, let's just jump into it.
So I guess I'll just start and open up about some of my past regarding money and the lies I believed and how I treated money as my salvation. But before that, I just want to say a quick little, I want to honor my parents with the way I talk about this stuff, because obviously I had my own perceived experience by watching money come and go from our household. And so my parents had their experience and I had my experience. And so I'm just sharing from my own personal perception of it, because as a kid, that's all you know. You just know what you see, you know what you hear, and you know what you're experiencing. And so I do want to do my best to honor them with that. And so for me, I grew up in a way, the way I started to idolize money, where money was going to be the ticket to having no issues in life. You know, we wouldn't have any car issues. We wouldn't have any trouble putting food on the table. For me, the way I started to view money throughout my upbringing was that if I can acquire this thing will keep me from having a hard life. And that was my ticket. That was my salvation. That was my trophy. And I directly interlinked my value as a person to how much money I could bring in. And ever since a young kid, I was coming up with business ideas and trying to earn money. And it sounds kind of cute. You know, it's not a bad thing. I think it's really great for a kid to start developing some of those things. But what I notice is that when I got to college and I chose my major, that was right after the market crash in 07, 08, 09. And that's when money problems just expanded all over the world, as you know. That was a really hard time for so many people. And that's when I started taking out student loans to be able to go to school. And I was debating, do I want to go to law school? I don't know if I have the brains for that, but I could go to business school, because ultimately all I want to do is make money to make sure I don't have any issues in my life. And I want freedom to do what I want to do. And so what's kind of funny is I viewed money as my salvation, and I went through so much hardship and humbling moments in college that it led me to my salvation in Christ in college, which is super interesting, because in my pursuit of the thing that I thought was going to free me, I found the true thing that freed me, because this thing kept falling short. It kept falling so short. And so that's just a little bit about my upbringing. I could have probably gone a lot more specific. You okay, babies?
Yeah, it's just special.
It is. It was a hard thing for me to process, because it's almost like if you have a hero and then you find out that hero is actually not a hero. And for me, ever since I was a kid, I just came up just thinking that this is my ticket. And then I'm 22, 23 years old, and I have my world rocked. And that I find out that thing is actually not that thing that I thought it was. And it could be anything. It could be your parents. It could be a mentor, it could be a family member, it could have been a career path that you want to be a doctor. There's certain things that we put on the pedestal of our heart that we allow to be something to us that they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And for me, it was money. And so a lot of what we're going to continue to talk about in this video is rewiring the way we view money, because you have your own money story. You have the way that you were brought up with money, whether you're operating from scarcity or operating from abundance, and it directly impacts every decision you make, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we want to be sharing for the rest of the video is how we can rewire our experiences and the way money impacts our life, because we want to make sure that it's having a healthy impact. I'm not going to say good impact. I want to say a healthy impact, because, you know, sometimes more money, more problems,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, so like Chad was saying, I do feel like the way we grow up does have a lot to do with the way we view money. And so it's funny how opposite I feel like we kind of grew up in terms of viewing money. I feel like I did grow up in a household where I never worried about finances. My dad had a successful business as a chiropractor, and I mean, I had his credit card in 8th grade, and so I just like never thought about money really, and I honestly had no idea the worth of a dollar until I got to college. When I got to college, my parents actually got a divorce and didn't have daddy's credit card anymore, and I remember getting my first paycheck from working as a hostess as a restaurant at a restaurant, and I remember seeing the paycheck and how low it was, but how much I felt like I worked, and being so shocked at how much I had to work to make this amount of money that I used to just go and spend at Dillard's on a random Tuesday. And it was so good for me to have that shocking realization that, wow, I actually have to like put in a lot of work to make this money that's going to sustain my lifestyle or what I want out of life. And I had a similar experience to Chad kind of going into college. I had very much like, well, what career do I need to take to make sure that I make X amount of money? And so I like started out as pre-med. I wanted to be a dermatologist, which is hilarious because I don't like blood. I hate hospitals. And literally my only thought was, oh, this will give me the type of money I want, and I'll still be able to like have a family. And so it's not like a bad thing that I thought that way. Oh, this job allows me to like make enough money to provide for a family and still be able to be a mom someday. But it was, I think, my sophomore year of college when someone asked me like, are you even looking forward to med school?
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely not. It looks like a tunnel, like a black tunnel with no light at the end. Like everything about everything I'm pursuing, like I don't want actually at all. And that's kind of when I realized that like money was an idol in my life. I thought that like money was all that really mattered to live this lifestyle that I wanted. And something else that, you know, I think I should mention is I did grow up in a church until I was about 15, 16 that was very like prosperity gospel driven. And I know that's a touchy subject, but I do just want to kind of share. Prosperity gospel really means like the more faith you have, the more money you'll make. And not like work. If you work hard and you steward your finances and you invest your money, like then you'll build wealth. And I think that there's like this thing in Christian culture that it's like, oh, to build wealth is greedy, or oh, money is bad, and like all this stuff. And I'm like, well, you can't be generous, which we're called to be, if you don't know how to steward your money well and build wealth. Like when you look at the Proverbs 31 woman, she sold things in the market and she had a vineyard and she was investing her finances, and then she was also generous with those in need. And so I just feel like my brain has gone from like abundance to scarcity to then, whoa, where do I even fall when it comes to how I view money? And I feel like it's really changed in the last couple of years. And I honestly feel like Chad's really helped me. Because there was times in my life where I did not want to even look at the bank account because I knew it was a disaster and I did not want to like know how bad I actually like needed it. And so, and one other thing. This is like kind of part of my testimony, but right out of college, I got a cushy corporate job, and I was miserable, led me into probably a slight depression that I you would never know because I'm such like a happy-go-lucky kind of person, and I normally have like a very positive outlook, but the only reason I didn't quit was because I was up for like a pretty decent promotion, and I was very attached to the money, but I had zero joy and zero peace being inside of that job whatsoever. I did not pray before taking the job. I was lazy inside the job, and the Lord ended up taking the job from me. And then the next day, literally within 24 hours, I was working for a women's nonprofit, making legit like no money at all, like a fourth of what I was making, but I was 4 times happier. And so anyways, I've gone through a whole array of different seasons, making different types of money, and my mindset has shifted so much. But anyways, we want to talk about how to view money in a healthy way, no matter where you're at financially right now.
So I guess the first kind of lie that we want to debunk is that money is bad. Because just like what Tori was sharing, that we don't want to believe in the prosperity gospel, but we also don't want to believe in the poverty gospel either. And it's like, I think we just need to lay it out for what it is. Money is a tool.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's bread. You know, bread is not a good or bad, it's a thing, right?
Yeah.
It's literally a thing. And you see in scripture, whenever Satan tempted Jesus to turn that rock into a loaf of bread, Jesus said, man is not fed on bread alone, but every word out of God's mouth. And so the way that he would have gone about getting the bread would have maybe showed a sinful heart. And so he said no, because he knew what Satan was going to say anyways. But so for us, it's like the loaf of bread isn't the thing. The way we value it and the way we go about getting it.
The love of it.
Yeah, the love of it could be the issue. And so we just want to make sure that we're completely honest, because like, you know, I was listening to this message, I think by John Piper. I don't know if it was a sermon or what it was, but he was sharing about how, you know, he has an organization. Is it called Desiring God? I think it's called Desiring God.
So, yeah.
I'm going to butcher this story, but he was talking about this dilemma he's in where his organization does very, very, very well, like millions. And so the way he set it up is to where he has a board of directors, and every like September, December, they get together and they donate all the excess money that the organization makes, which is millions. And so, you know, think of how valuable that is to God's kingdom, that someone is taking all this value that they're making and giving it away to different charities or different things like that, which I think is so special. But he also set boundaries up to make sure that this thing can't corrupt him either. Yeah. And so it can be used for good or used for bad. It really depends on whose hands it's in.
Yeah. And I also do want to say, like, there's not such thing as like quote unquote too much, because I feel like there is another thing inside of the Christian community where it's like, oh, if you make this amount, it's just like too much money. And that's so circumstantial and it's so opinionated, where it's like, okay, the amount of money that I needed as a college girl is very different than the kind of money we're gonna need if we have 4 children that we like need to feed. You know what I mean? And so I don't think that there's a particular something or threshold, a number that, first off, judgment is like not your job anyway, so you should not be judging. But it's like, okay, what, like, you actually need to like look at finances for what they are, and like Chad said, as a tool for your goals in life, the way you want to live your life, the way you want to steward your money, the way you want to invest, the way you want to give back. Like, the reason we're building the home we're building is because we believe that our spiritual gifting is hospitality, and we want people to feel welcome in a place where they feel loved, where we can feed them, where we can gather around at a table. And like the place we have right now, we have no table to like gather people. No. Like, we had 2 couples over the other night, and they're sitting on the floor because we don't have like a big enough table. And so for us, something that we value is having a space to bring people together, that we can share life, we can talk about Jesus, we can encourage each other, sharpen each other, etc. Yeah. And so I do feel like it's
sun and fun. The airplanes are flying overhead.
Yeah, so I don't feel like money is evil. It's a tool to be able to set your life up in the way you want to, and the way you feel like God is calling you to. And it's not bad to say, hey, I have this talent, I have this skill, and I want to earn money. Yeah. Because I feel like I don't know if this is just like a girl thing, but like I know I've struggled with this, and I know friends that have struggled with this. Oh, well, I don't mind doing that. Like, I'm good at that. Like, I'll help you do that. And it's like, I don't want to charge you for my time or my talent or whatever. No worries. And it's like, no, like, this is something I feel like God has called me to do. And it's okay to say, hey, this is what I feel is appropriate rate to charge for this service or whatever that is. And so if you're believing that, or if you're stuck in that season that I've 100% been in before, that's not helpful. Like, that's actually not what God is like calling you to do. You can serve with your time and your talents, but you also, there's so many planes flying overhead right now, but you're also called to work, and work should mean some monetary value. The second lie we want to debunk is that money is directly tied to your happiness, which is not true. There's been seasons in my life where I was flat broke, working 3 jobs, and the amount of joy I had because I was so dependent on Jesus was like insane. I mean, there's been seasons where I'm making a lot more money and I'm not as happy because I'm completely stressed about what I'm doing. And so it's just not true that the two are completely intertwined. Now, does financial freedom free up some of your emotional stress? Yes, it can definitely do that, but you do have to just make sure where your heart actually is and what you're focused on. Because if you're focused on Jesus, which I was in that season of being completely broke, that's why I had a joy that surpassed my earthly circumstances and understanding. Now, if I'm working really hard and I'm really stressed out and my focus is on how much money I'm gonna make, then no, I'm probably not gonna have that sense of joy that I had when I was flat broke. But if I'm focused on Jesus in the midst of working hard and trying to build wealth so that we can be generous and live and provide for our family, then there it is. But it's all about where your eyes are looking. Are you focused on Jesus? Or are you focused on the money? Which one's the throne of your heart?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's something that people say on their deathbed a lot. Is like, there's weird studies about that. I'm sorry if it sounds funny, but the top 3 things that people say whenever they're on their deathbed are, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. I wish I would have stressed less. And I wish I would have spent more time with my family. And these are people that are passing on, and the things that they regret the most are working too much, not spending enough time with their family, and stressing too much. And it's just, it's funny how that works. It's like, and if we can start adopting the mindset right now that you putting in 80 hours a week is not actually going to support your happiness. You think it may, you might be trying to pay your dues right now, but you're actually going to miss your 20s or however old you are. You know, you're going to miss it. And so there's seasons where, and I think there's even studies that show that there's people that if you make more than this amount right here, if you make more than that amount, there's a
diminishing return.
Yeah, there's a diminishing return on happiness. And it's just like what you're exchanging for what you're getting. And I think that that's an important thing to note is, what are you exchanging for money? Okay, you're typically exchanging your time. Okay, and is the amount of time you're exchanging worth the amount of money you're getting? Because some people might say yes, but are we truly valuing our time?
Yeah.
You know, with how much time we spend scrolling on social media, is that a direct reflection of how we value ourselves and how we value our time spent?
Yeah.
So
it's good.
And so the last one we're going to talk about today is the lie that your self-worth is directly connected to your net worth. And I think that, that's a no. That's going to be a no. And I love this quote by like the first or second richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos, Amazon guy. Or he had this speech where he was talking about how if you have, say, $50 million in the bank, and then you perceive yourself as this valuable and this smart, then you lose 25 of it. You lose 25 million of it. Are you now $25 million less smart and less valuable? And he's like, if you live your life based off of that, that's a really unhealthy way to live, because there may be seasons where you lose it all. There may be seasons where it isn't, you're not bearing as much fruit. And of course, I know those are extreme numbers, but I guess when you're Jeff Bezos, you deal with those extreme numbers. Yeah. But for us, we really want to be intentional to let you know that you are a human being. You're not a human doing. You're known for who you are in Christ and not for what good works or whatever expertise you have. Yeah. This is fleeting. This is eternal. This is unconditional love.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I think that's it for today. The next video, we're gonna go more in depth about how to actually budget, how to invest, how to get out of debt, like a lot more practical. But before we got there, we wanted to share with you, our stories, where we came from and different lies and mentalities that, you know, how you view money is really important before we get to the next part. So I hope it was encouraging. If you felt like you got something out of it, feel free to share it with a friend you think it might encourage or give value to. Another just shout out to our patrons. We're so thankful for you. Still in shock. That's why we keep saying thank you, because we're just like, we literally are so thankful. And so anyways, that's it for today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.
We'll see you next one.